Hello, everyone, and welcome to Africa Fire Mission's weekly virtual training session. My name is Mike, and I'm a project coordinator here with Africa Fire Mission. We're happy that you took time out of your busy schedules to join us for today's online training session. Today, we're joined again by Mark Feyst. He's done a lot of training with us. Great speaker, great resource. You guys are in for a real treat as he discusses more topics on leadership today. Before we get started, just a couple of administrative items. If you stick around for at least 70% of today's training, which is usually about 40 or 45 minutes, you will receive a certificate of attendance for today's training. Keep an eye on the chat. I'll be placing a link to our Google Drive where you'll be able to access a recording of this training or any of our other trainings that we've done this past year. You can also review those trainings, answer a few questions about them, and receive a certificate of attendance for those as well. When we get finished at the top of the hour, we'll move into our tea time. I invite you to stick around for that as well. It's a place where you'll be able to ask some questions about today's training or any other topic that's on your mind. Tea time is hosted by Jose Nangiri, who is Africa Fire Mission's fire safety advocate. And I'm going to pass things over to Jose for a few words of encouragement to get us started.
Thank you, Chief Mike. Thank you, Chief Mark, for being here, and everybody else. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your sacrifice of your bundles and even to increase your knowledge every week. We don't take that for granted. So right into it, today's encouragement, I was just looking at something this morning. Something popped up in my Facebook, and it says, who's your 911 when you're falling apart? Or you can say, who do you run to when you're falling apart? I was like, this can be very interesting. And some of the things that I listed down are, number one, when you're falling apart or when you're stressed, you don't know what to do, there are 5 people or 5 things that you can go reach out to. And those 5 are, you can reach out to friends and family. And when you reach out to friends and family, reach out to them and tell them what you're going through. Genuinely tell them, hey, this is what I'm going through, and I need help from you guys. Yeah. Number 2, you can go to church and talk to a pastor or a clergy member and say, hey, this is what I'm going through. I need your prayers. I need you to help me go through this together. And by that, they can help you to talk about your situation and you can get a solution. Number 3, you can reach out to a health and care provider. It is okay not to be okay. So if you have reach out to a mental health professional who can talk to you through the situation, and through that, you can actually get help. Number 4, you can get into a support group. A support group, talk about your issue, and from there, you can be sorted out with the issue that you're going through. And the last one, a helpline. Nowadays, we have helpline from the Red Cross. We have helpline from St. John Ambulance. You have helplines all over. If you're struggling on any kind of addiction or you need help on anything, you can reach out and be helped. So don't die with your issue. Don't stick with your issue. Reach out to either of us, even at AFM, and we can be able even to talk through it. Thank you very much. And back to you, Chief Mike. And all the best, Mark, in this today's session.
Thanks a lot, Jose. Looks like we've got some great representation showing up from a bunch of different countries here today. So I think without further ado, I'm going to pass things over to Mark to get us started with today's lesson.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you, Jose. And everybody, welcome. Good morning, or good afternoon, rather. And welcome to our weekly session for training. It's going to be back with you folks once again. And I hope to today leave some tidbits of information with you in regards to leadership. Right now, as you can probably tell, I'm wearing my uniform, so I am at work on duty today. and which means that there could be a good chance that a call will come in. You may hear that in the background, but I'm with you folks for the for a duration, guaranteed. But just so if you hear that noise, you know what's about in the background here. It's also snowing where I am right now, which is also not a good thing. It should be actually sunny and warm right now, but it's actually snowing, and that's why I'm wearing my sweater. It's a little chilly here today in the old fire station. But our topic today is leadership and development in terms of not just an officer, but everybody. Everybody is a leader in some respect in the fire service, whether you're the newest member that's just been hired or brought in at the very bottom of the food chain, or you're the fire chief. In between those 2 points, we fill in those positions, and even though we may not have an official rank or an official position, we are still a leader to some degree in some aspect. And so this is going to be applicable to everybody and not just focused on say a fire chief or a captain, and that's it. Everybody can lead. And there's a good term that we can utilize, and that is sometimes we lead from the bottom up, or we sometimes lead from the rear. And what that means is that the bottom people can be very influential in assisting with other leaders and helping to lead from the bottom or from the rear in terms of having that voice, that influence, the thoughts, and other attributes that we'll look at this morning quickly in our time together about how to be an effective leader and how you can develop your skills in that same arena as well. As I mentioned, I am at work, so as soon as we're done our time here today, I'm not trying to be a snob, but as soon as we're done, I'll have to go because we are training 5 new recruits that we just hired. Their first day was on Monday, and they're in recruit training today, so I have to go down to the academy and assist with them today, pulling hose. They're going to be pulling hose all day today. So as soon as I'm done here, I'll wish you guys all the best and then say my goodbyes and leave. Don't think I'm leaving because I don't want to be here. It's because I do have to be on duty. So I'm going to share my screen with you all. I'm going to bring up what I have for us to go through and utilize. And what you're seeing in front of you right now, if this does, here we go. What you're seeing in front of you right now is a titled slide called the 21st Century Firefighter. Now, does that sound like it's a leadership topic? No. However, I have actually edited this presentation down to focus on some of the leadership attributes that, yes, a firefighter and an officer should possess and be working towards in terms of being a leader in their own place. So let's take a look at this as we go through, and we'll see if we can. Here we go. So first off, when we look at a leader in the fire service, we usually attribute this to being a senior firefighter. But as I mentioned, it could be both junior and a senior individual that's within the ranks. And one thing we want to make sure we do lead with is upholding traditions. And as you see in that picture there, you're seeing a shift of guys that I used to work with, and there we are together having our annual Thanksgiving dinner. And that's a tradition where we are, but where you folks are, you have other traditions that you may celebrate on an annual basis or on a regular basis. And those traditions need to be upheld, not just celebrations, but also just in the everyday operations and how you run a department in your everyday operations. That's also traditional in terms of when you come to work, when you report to duty, the first thing might be your uniform, making sure it's all ready to go, dressed nice and neat, things are shined, cleaned, pressed. That might be the first step. That's part of tradition. Or it might be also roll call. The shift coming on or the members coming in to take up the next time period to be on duty, they may be relieved of duty by the previous people. That might be a roll call time. So that might be also traditional as well. And so it's up to us as those leaders within the department to pass on that torch from the one generation to the next generation, and to keep those traditions in place, because it does form the foundational basis of what we do and why we do it and how we do it as well. And there'll be sometimes the questions of why do we still do this from some individuals, and that's where you step in as that leader. You're going to remind them why we do this, why this tradition is still being upheld, why we still practice it, and the importance it has within the department and to the individual themselves. A leader has to be a competent individual. Right? You cannot effectively lead another person or persons if you yourself are not competent in what you are doing. And that requires some self-reflection. That requires you to look in the mirror and evaluate with what I'm doing, the skill sets that I possess. Am I competent in what I'm doing? And not everybody is an expert in everything. I know I'm not. And so there are certain areas of this industry that I am not competent in, and others that I am. And the ones that I am not competent in, I know what those areas are. And so therefore, I'm not going to be the one to try and lead that initiative or lead that discussion or lead those trainings or lead that operation, period, because I am not the right person for it. And I know my limitation with regard to that as well. So being competent is a key component of being an effective leader. The picture you're seeing, if you can see the picture I have on this slide, is an officer. It's a captain, and this captain was with other officers who were being evaluated to see where they were skill-wise. And this picture is good because this picture is showing the firefighter's mask. It's on, but he has it on in the wrong way, in terms of he has his flash hood first on his face, and then the face piece went on top, and that's backwards. It should be the other way around. And so it's a good picture to show us that this captain, who's supposed to be leading other firefighters into a burning building, he himself is not competent in getting himself dressed properly to be fully protected. So make sure you're competent. Do that self-reflection in the mirror and see and identify what areas you know you're well versed in, and what areas you might need a bit more practice or a little more education to make yourself a little more competent. What else? We want to be good listeners. You know, a good leader is not just somebody who's always talking. It's the individual who takes the time to listen. And sometimes it's best to listen more than to speak. And so that's why I wrote there, listen, don't speak, or do not speak. Because there's a place in time where you use your 2 ears, and what you hear and bring in is going to help you with making decisions, or help you in terms of giving a good response if asked a question, or if you're asked for advice, or if you're hearing what's going on in the station as far as the chatter amongst the individuals. You can then interject at the right time to give a word of wisdom or a word of guidance. And so it's always good for us to be listeners, and a good leader will be a good listener. I'm sure you can look right now within your own department or know people you associate with who don't listen, who have very poor listening skills, and they're always wanting to talk. And they do more talking than listening. And as you're speaking to them, what you're saying is not making its way into the ear. It's just out here. And they want to tell you what they want to tell you. And what you have to say isn't really relevant or important. So to be a good leader does require you to be a good listener, and to know at what time I should be speaking and should not be speaking. All right, a good leader is also somebody who's going to be doing things, right? The guy who does stuff, right? So you're going to be active. You're not going to be like the guy in the picture taking a nap on the trailer. You're the guy out there doing. Now, it's a comical picture because this is my good friend Bill, and Bill is much older than I am. He's probably in his 60s, and this was taken after a full day of us doing live fire training with some new people. So he was tired, took a little nap, but Bill's the kind of guy who's always doing something. And that's why I took the photo, because it was comical that, hey, I caught you sleeping finally, because I never see the guy taking a break. I never see him taking a nap, but in this case, here he was. But the leader of the department, the leader within that group, within that truck, or within the four walls, they're going to be a guy or gal who's going to be doing things and not sitting around doing nothing. They're going to be active. And it helps to set the example to the others. If they see you always doing something, whether it's cleaning the station, shining uniforms, looking at the truck, inspecting equipment, reading fire service magazines, or just reading in general, reading a newspaper, something productive. If they see you doing that, that's leading by example. And that's what a leader does. They show who they are by what they do. And in the case of being active, you're going to be doing things. You want to show respect for rank. A good leader knows that rank is rank. It's not about the individual who wears the rank. If that person has been designated as that chief, deputy chief, captain, lieutenant, then so be it. That's the rank they possess. And a leader will show that due respect for the rank at all times. And kind of going back to the previous slide, where we're leading by example. If others see me showing that respect for that rank, regardless of who the person is, they're going to be following along and seeing that that's what needs to be done, and they will do it themselves. If we look at an individual and we say, that's Joe, we don't like Joe. Joe's an idiot, but yet he's the fire chief. Are we going to treat that person because I think personally he's an idiot and that's how I'm going to treat him? If I do, that's the wrong thing. That's not a good leader. A leader will not do that. A leader will show respect for the rank of the chief or captain, acknowledge it, do what's asked of them when that officer gives an order or gives a request to be completed. And when the time is right, will give his opinion, if asked, about perhaps what the chief or the captain or officer is doing that may not be right, or may be wrong, or may be what makes that person an idiot. Can be told to him, hey, you're an idiot because you're going around not listening, you're talking too much. And if you just kind of do this and open these, you might be a better leader. That might be the time when asked to give that opinion. But regardless, you're going to be given respect to rank at all times when you are encountering those individuals within your presence. A good leader is going to be a guy or a gal who's going to elevate other people, right? And this requires a little bit of humility. You got to be a little humble. You cannot be a person full of pride and look at me, look what I can do. I'm number one. You need to be humble. And that's why I said in the beginning, you can lead from the rear, because a person who is humble will be in the back. They're not going to be in the front all the time. The ones in the front are the ones who are always showing off and want to be recognized. A lot of times the good leaders are the ones you got to pick out from the back. They're the ones hiding. They're the ones that are humble, but they're the ones that are in the rear, elevating and pushing and lifting others up with themselves as well. So as you look around with who you're working with, who you're training with, and when you see an individual struggling, needing some help and so on, that's the time to step in and elevate them, help them. As Jose gave his this morning, our word of encouragement to you all about who to seek out for help when you need it for mental health issues or personal issues or of any personal nature. It's the same thing. You're seeking somebody to get their help to help elevate you out of this situation that you find yourself in. So when you're working with other firefighters, you can be that elevator to take them from one position and raise them up to another one that might be the better spot to be in, both emotionally as well as physically, in terms of their skill sets and their competency in what they're doing. Okay, so I mentioned this already about listening skills, right? Open your ears and listening. And this is kind of a little different slant on it though. And that is, don't be the person too quick to respond in speech, especially with social viewpoints, political viewpoints. In the fire station and working with other firefighters, there is camaraderie. And that camaraderie sometimes does involve a little jabbing back and forth, you know, give a little jab, little poke, little teasing amongst the crew. And sometimes for some individuals, that teasing or jabbing doesn't sit well with them. They can't accept it, or they can't handle what's being said to them in a teasing fashion. And so they're quick to respond. Or what can happen sometimes is we can bait them into. So if you go fishing, you'll use bait on your fishing line to get the fish. Or for the single guys, you know, you'll put the bait out there to try and attract a nice future wife by looking real nice, put your nice shirt on, combing your hair, smelling really nice. That's also baiting on a comical side. But sometimes firefighters will bait other firefighters by saying something on purpose to try and get the other person to react. And when they do react, that's where you're too quick to respond, and you find yourself going down the wrong path, because then it may spill into an argument, and at that point things get worse. So when you're opening your ears and you're listening actively, you're as I mentioned, you're knowing when to speak, but don't be too quick to respond, especially if it's a time of fun, joking around back and forth, a little bit of teasing here and there. You have to learn to accept sometimes some teasing, and just accept it with a nice big smile, and that's it, and don't say anything. And by doing so, you're going to protect yourself from not looking foolish when you are quick to respond, and the process, the words you say may be not well received. So do your best to listen and to control the tongue with what's being said. Okay, never stop learning, right? So I've already mentioned a few things about this already, but a good leader is somebody who's always expanding their knowledge and expanding their palate, as it were, with new flavors of food. In this case, the food is education, knowledge, new skills, refreshing those skills. And this can be done in many different ways. We're doing it right now. So this is one way for you to expand your palate, increase your knowledge base, refresh some current knowledge already. And that takes an effort on each person's behalf. And a good leader is somebody who's going to seek that out whenever they can. And there's ways of doing it personally on your own, with looking on the web, or like, for example, when I'm at work, I just got this month's magazine from Fire Engineering. So part of my job at some point today is I'm gonna read something from that for my own benefit, right? So I can personally do that on my own. And when I'm done, I may pass it up to, hey guys, when you got a chance, read this. I'm done reading it. Here you go. You guys can take it and read yourself. We can look at reports that are produced in the fire service that also help us to learn quite a bit, as well as attend conferences and different conventions. And hopefully, for example, in Kenya in November of this year, there'll be the fire symposium. And when that happens, hopefully a lot of you can come and attend And that's going to a conference, that's seeking out that knowledge and that skills refreshment or skills development to help the never stop learning attribute of being a good leader. It's also looking in your backyard, right? Never stop learning also involves looking in your backyard. What's happening around me at all times? What's changing? Are we getting new buildings built? Are there some other buildings being demolished and torn down? Is there an influx of people moving in for various reasons, right? It's part of opening your eyes up and looking around and seeing what's happening around us. That's part of the never stop learning attribute as well. Okay, so one saying that I guess I use a lot is this one right here, and that is do not wait to be spoon-fed. And if you're at the symposium last year in November, I'm pretty sure I may have said that a couple times, but the analogy is with a small baby, a small child. When a baby's born, the baby has to be fed by its parents, by its mother. So as it starts off in the early days, it may be breastfeeding the small child, and as the child then grows a bit more in age, we can feed them with a spoon, for example, or a utensil. And so we have to bring the food to the child, and the child then receives it and then will of course ingest it and eat it. And as you get older, you learn how to feed yourself. So right now, if we were all to sit down at a table right now and have a nice dinner all together, we're not feeding each other by cutting the food and taking a spoon and serving it to the person next to us. We are feeding ourselves. And the same thing with never stop learning is you need to seek out those opportunities and not wait for that to come to you. And a lot of firefighters who lack the leadership qualities or are not the best leaders in the group are usually the ones that are waiting to be fed. They're waiting for it to come to them. And until that happens, they're not going to do anything. A good leader, a true leader, is a person, whether they are a bottom firefighter, a captain, a chief officer, they're going out on their own and they are seeking it out. They're seeking that food for themselves so they can eat and they can grow. And so do not wait to be spoon-fed. Be a good leader and seek out and feed yourself with your knowledge and with your skill sets. All right. This is a pretty true point nowadays. A lot of us individuals, I'm sure it's happening right now, maybe as we're learning, right? We're distracted. And what we're seeing now is the small little cell phone that we carry amongst ourselves that allows us to have access to lots of information and access to you name it around the world. And we're finding that because of that, we're becoming a little more isolated, even in the station, right? So I have to go to work and we're at the station on duty. We may find ourselves scattered and to ourselves looking at our phone for hours on end. A good leader will get involved and will involve the crew, bring them back together, put the phones down. Let's sit down and chit chat. Let's talk about something, or let's go do something fun. That might be play a little game or something, or go for a trip and tour and look at something in the community, right? You're involving the crew, you're getting involved, and you're not finding yourself being a solo person off in the corner, looking at your phone and being isolated from the rest of your crew. All right, same thing as that beginning picture, right? Have another way of getting involved is eating together. And this is something that's traditional in the fire service. We do eat a lot, unfortunately, and it shows in our waistlines and our clothing. So when we get together and involve each other, a good place is at the table, the kitchen table, whether it's breakfast, lunch, dinner, meal, tea time. That brings people together, have a little snack, little tea, and it starts the discussions and participation of all people in that aspect. So get together, have your meals, uphold those traditions when we're eating together all the time. Okay, well, a little phrase here called embody the job. What does that mean? It means that you want to be there, and because you want to be there, you're going to give your best to be there. You're not the kind of person that's there because you've been forced into it, nor do you believe that you have the right to everything, which we call entitlement. And we see this sometimes in the fire service, especially with immature individuals, young people, as well as people who have been bred or raised to think that they are entitled to everything in life. And in the fire service, they may think, I'm entitled to everything. So you give me. You got to give back. And giving back is where you embody the job. And a good leader, is somebody who will do that. They'll be the one to give back. They're the ones that are embodying the job. They're not expecting the entitlements. They're not expecting that you must do this for me all the time. There's a place and time for it where the department needs to do things for the firefighters, but it's not expected all the time. And so there's going to be opportunities where you may have to give something of yourself to the job. And we can think of the most precious giving is going to be your life, right? We signed up for this, and part of our job is to put ourselves in harm's way to help others. And that has at times cost us something in terms of injury. And for some firefighters, it sometimes costs their lives, which is the greatest giving of all. So embodying the job requires you to be willing to give, and a leader is going to want to give of themselves to the crew, to the department, to the community, and so on. Okay, another term that we sometimes use is pacification of the fire service. And what that means is, going back to a small child analogy, a pacifier is what's put into a baby's mouth to help it to be quiet, as well as when it's growing its teeth, it can kind of suck on it and kind of take some of the pain away, but also mostly to try and keep them quiet. It mimics them being breastfed. Right? That's a pacifier. And so we use that term pacification of the fire service. I mean, there's some individuals who act like babies. And because they act like little children, they get treated as such. And that's that entitlement factor kicking in. And we sometimes hear from those individuals that I can't, or you can't do that. I can't do this. I don't have to do that. Or this job's not meant for me. It's too hot. It's too dirty. I don't want to do that. Those are the pacification statements that come from people who are not giving of themselves in this industry. So a good leader will not be the person who will be saying these. They're the ones that are saying, I will do it. I'll be more than glad to help you or take up this task. It is a hot day, but this is what our job is. I'm going to fulfill my obligations. That's what a good leader does. Embodying the job also involves your family. Do not forget your family. Again, going back to the very first thing about traditions, tradition also involves your family. And so don't exclude them. They need to be included with what you're doing. And you're seeing a couple of photos of myself in my early days and with our 3 children as they're very, very young. Now they're all adults, but you don't want to exclude your family from what you're doing. You want to include them. And whenever you get a chance, like bring them down to the station, have a meal together. I'll tell you something that we did as tradition in our family. And that was when I was working on my 24-hour shifts. My wife would bring the 3 kids down. We'd have dinner at the station with our family and my wife, our 3 kids. She would bring the meal down from home, and we sit in the outside on the picnic table and have our meal as a family out there at the fire hall. That was a tradition. And so it was a way to include all of us and not have that separation of family all the time because you're at work. Okay? So do not forget your family and make sure you include them in what you're doing. I'm going to skip that one there. Okay, let's look at the laws. Our time's kind of getting close to the end here. I want to get to the laws of leadership because these are really some of the foundational principles that we should be standing upon and should be exhibiting in our everyday practice. And the laws of leadership are not my ideas. Actually, this is from a book. I forget who wrote it, but it's called the 21 Laws of I think Leadership. And in that book, this individual details 21 different ways or different I wouldn't say legal requirements, but more so legalistic requirements that a leader should be exhibiting and should be practicing on a regular basis to be an effective leader. So one law is the law of influence, right? And that looks at who you hang around with, who are the people that you associate with. Are they the positive people or the negative people? Are they the ones that are always there to help you and encourage you? Or are they the ones that are always trying to bring you down? They have a horrible life. Their demeanor or their attitude is really negative and crappy. And so because it's always for them, they're going to make your life miserable too. Is that the kind of person you're hanging around with? And who you associate with and who is surrounding you is what's going to influence you. So if you want to be a negative person, hang around negative people, and you will be. If you want to be a positive individual who's growing and is going to be a good, effective leader, then you want to hang around with people who are in the same boat, in the same camp, because they're going to rub off on you and you will grow and be influenced to be a good leader. So look at who you hang around with, right? And you need to choose wisely. Choose the right people that you want to associate with and make sure you get attached to the hip and be with them. And that way you're going to be influenced greatly by them to be a better leader or a better person for the most part. Okay, the law of process. This kind of wraps up what I've said in the beginning about learning, never stop learning, don't stop learning, feed yourself, right? Because to be a good leader takes time. It is not going to be an overnight flick on the switch like a light in a room and 1 minute you're not a good leader, next minute you are. It takes a process. It takes time. It takes time to do that self-reflection, to do that daily growth, to look at yourself and figure out what areas do I need to improve upon. And it's continuous, right? It's every day. And by doing that continuous, you're going to be that man of action that's going to be leading by example. And others are going to see that hey, this guy's trying to improve himself, he's growing, and on a daily rate. And by so doing, you'll see yourself increase every day from, I can see it for myself. When I first began 26 years ago to where I am today, there's been that continual growth. And if I look back on those 26 years, I can say, yeah, 26 years ago, I was here. And today, I am where I am today, right? So it is a continual growth. And hopefully for you, it's a growth going up. It's not a growth going down. And if it is going down, you need to identify that it is going down, make a course correction somehow, so now you're going back up again. The law of solid ground, right? This is where you as an individual are going to portray the kind of person you are. Are you a rock solid individual who's trustworthy? People know that you're ethical, that you have high morals, that you're the kind of person who does not do certain things? Or are you the kind of person that is kind of flaky? And as the wind blows, like a small leaf on a tree branch, As the wind blows, it blows with it. That's the law of solid ground. It's your character. What kind of character do you have? And it is communicated. You communicate that character in the actions that you exhibit to others. So as they're watching you, they're going to see what kind of character you have and what kind of character you are. And it needs to be consistent every day. That's how that character is developed, and how that character is going to be seen as a consistent factor every day. That's a consistency that builds up their character, and it also helps to show that proper respect as well. And people will respect you for what you do in terms of your character, how you conduct yourselves. The solid ground you stand upon will be respected by others. They may not, they will not agree with everything you do. They may disagree on some things, but regardless of agreeing or disagreeing, they will still respect the position or the ground you stand upon because of the solid character that you show to them. All right, the law of magnetism kind of ties into the law of influence. All right, so the law of influence is looking at who you are hanging around. The law of magnetism is looking at who you attract, right? So think of a magnet. A magnet is designed to be drawn or stick to metal. And when it's the right, the negative and the positive come together, it adheres and sticks very solidly. When you have, two positives in a magnet, it wants to repel each other. So it's a question of who do you attract? Who's attracted to you as far as the good people, the bad people, their values? Are they the kind of individuals who want to do things? Are they lazy? Are they progressive? Not proactive? That you gotta look at for yourself and see, who am I attracting, right? And hopefully you're attracting the right people, and the right people are attracted to you. And that kind of goes hand in hand, that law of influence somewhat. In the picture there you're seeing is a goofy picture of our friend Tim. Tim's now a assistant fire chief in the city or at the Pittsburgh International Airport for that fire department. And this was a time we were finished teaching at a class together, a bunch of us, and went out for dinner. It was Tim's birthday. And so at this restaurant, the birthday tradition there was to wear a moose antlers hat, and we sing happy birthday to Tim. So, am I attracting the right kind of people who dress like mooses, as you see in the picture? Hopefully I am, because Tim's a good guy. Tim's a guy who's growing continually. He has strong character. He's got high values. He's got the proactive work ethic of always doing something. That's who he attracts, and that's who should be attracted to him, and who should be he should be attracted to as well in like kind. All right, so that is our time together this morning in terms of a quick look at some leadership qualities and some attributes that perhaps you already possess and maybe could develop a bit more, or ones that you never thought about. And you think, hey, you know what? I need to maybe develop this one area, or maybe I need to do this to become a better leader. So I hope that this morning there's some tidbits that have kind of dropped into your mind today that you can walk away with. And certainly what you can do now is that self-reflection, identify, put in place a plan of action, and do it. And if you do it, you're going to see hopefully some good growth in yourself. All right. So again, thank you for your time today. I hope the rest of your day goes all well, and stay safe. And I'm not sure when I'm back with you folks again next, but I'm sure it's in the near future. So I hope to see you at that point in time.
All righty. Thank you, Mark. Thanks for taking the time out of your schedule to join us. Great lesson today. Lots of lots of valuable information in ways that you can grow both as just a firefighter and grow into being a leader as well. At this point in time, we're going to open up the floor if there's any questions. We'll take those. Mark, I know, has got to beat feet here and head out.
I can wait 5 more minutes because actually I'm ahead of schedule here. So
we're ahead of schedule. 5 more minutes. If you've got a question, you can use the raise hand feature. You can put your question in the chat. You can unmute yourself. If you'd like to directly ask Mark a question, now's the time. We've got a quick 5 minutes left. You've covered things well, Mark.
I'm going to take that moment of silence that everybody's thinking and they're absorbing and they're just too busy to think of a question. So that's good. That means you're taking it all in and you're reflecting. So I'm going to take off now. So again, I wish you all a good day and stay safe, everybody. And I'll see you down the road.
Thanks, Mark. Stay in touch. Alrighty. That offer is still out there. If you've got any questions or comments about today's lesson, let me wrap things up in our formal portion here by thanking Mark for being here, thanking all of you for taking the time out of your schedules to come and join us, to spend your money, to get your bundles and be here. It's much appreciated what you do and what you do for your community. We thank you all and invite you to invite all of your colleagues and anyone you know that's missing out on this free training opportunity and encourage them to take advantage as well. We hope to see you all again next week.